Yeah,
I've
the
been doing
silly.
so much Zooming in the last 5 months with kids and families all around the world, actually. And so kids have taught me how to get pretty good at this. So I can share screens and show stuff. Actually, maybe I'll do that. I can show you an image that I think pertains to something I want to talk about with
Oh,
you.
that would be great. Hold on a moment. I'm going to allow you to share the screen. There we go.
Yeah, let me
Okay, there we
pull
go.
that up.
Sure.
Uh,
Fantastic.
it's just cool because there's so many really important ideas that I can, it's like I'm making house calls all around the world as a doctor. I'm using the technology. At first, I was like, no, I don't like that. I like to be in person. And then I adapted to it. And that shows the innate adaptability we all have.
I know it's really amazing. We really are, we can adapt, and hopefully we're going to evolve as well as adapt to this
Exactly. And that's what
situation.
I
So,
want to talk about is that evolving.
yes, sir. That's what I want to talk about too. So,
All right. So let me get back to you. There you are.
so,
So where are you living?
so I live up in Rhinebeck.
Oh yeah, I love it
Actually,
up there.
actually, I live in the town of Clinton, near the Omega Institute, which I
I
bet
know
you
it
know
well. I've
about.
taught there, yeah.
You do. I thought
Years
maybe as
ago, years
much.
ago,
Uh
I
huh.
taught there. Yeah, not in a long time now, but yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. I live about a mile away on the other side of the lake, and one of the nice perks that I didn't know about till I moved in. I had gone to Omega a few times before, knew about it, but I didn't realize until I moved into the community that one of the perks is since they don't pay property taxes, they let all the residents use their property and get non-commuter fees. And so we go up
Wow,
there, we hear music, we go swimming, we do the boats, take a walk, meditate in the sanctuary. It's
beautiful.
great stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. It's
Yeah, I
great
really
for
like it
you,
here.
and it's still fairly untouched. It hasn't been commercialized the way Westchester has. I'm
Yep.
at the very top tip of Westchester, you
Whereabouts
know,
are you?
just north of Croton.
Okay, sure.
But, when I first moved here, this was all woods around me. And there's still a lot of woods. I mean, it still looks like, Rhinebeck, this was all country cottages, but, I'm seeing building everywhere now.
Right. So
You
actually,
know,
you're
I,
not too far from the Indian Point power plant, are you?
yeah, in fact, there was this whole move to, it's down, it's
I know.
closed.
Yeah, it's just about. It's gonna be one is shut down, the other one's getting down like in the spring, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's going to change a lot up here in terms of, you know, my whole perception. That's always when I do, biking or anything, and I see that thing looming there, on the Hudson, it changes your kind of view of, wait, what's going on here? But hopefully it's not, my only worry about the shutdown is whether they can do this safely in the containment of it.
Yeah, yes, I agree. There's the pros and the cons. On the pro side of shutting it down, that was actually originally the target for the plane that took out the Second World Trade Center
That's right.
tower. So, from a safety perspective and God, an economic and
Yeah, it's
environmental perspective,
30
yeah,
minutes, 30 miles from the city. That would have just blown out the tri-state area.
that's it.
But also what it does to the river, in terms of the
Sure.
water and, heating and, it's not appropriate for it to be this close in a community that's so packed with people. It's just
Yep.
absurd.
Yep. And then on the things that we'll be concerned about on the economic side is the impact on the school system and the tax base and the jobs. So that's, needs to really be recognized and dealt with and
Yeah,
retrained
our
into
taxes will
sustainable.
definitely go up, but
Yep.
it will, you know, change the property value too, though.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they may, I don't know how they'll balance each other out. What they should do, what you need to do is get them to put some windmills on the top of the thing.
Yeah, and put solar everywhere,
Solar
which people are
everywhere.
starting to do. Westchester is starting to,
But
it
that
is
whole thing could
escalating.
be
So
solared, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Got
So
a lot of
solar,
square
wind,
footage there.
renewables, no doubt about it. I mean, and there is the opportunity to do it, and we're starting to see some activity. And they got to make up the power too. I mean, 2,000 megawatts of nukes is a
Yeah.
lot of power to make up. But
For a huge area. They were
yep,
supplying a huge area.
yeah, exactly. So the good news is they're also doing transmission, which has its mixed benefits, but they're doing a lot of upstate wind and solar, and then bringing down some of the hydro from Canada. And you can make it up. We just got to be innovative, and then we need to get more distributed systems, which is where we're
Big,
headed, which is
that's
the
the
whole
big
thing. So
deal. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the big deal. And that's why I'm such a fan of everything you're doing, because you're thinking very pragmatically, very practically about how can we actually do this and prove to people that it's cheaper. People just go into this mindset that no, no, it'll cost way more money, because change seems like it costs more money when you can lay it out. I was listening this morning. I got up really early, which is why I look a little tired. I
great.
was
Stop.
was listening to your previous guests, and you did some really nice, practical, down and dirty kind of speaking about why the time is now and why these things are doable. It's not just some wild idea. And when you mix the practical and the possible together, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, so so first, thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah,
And the reason why why I started this was because there's such a lack of hope and understanding that this is possible. And people are
exactly.
just getting so overwhelmed with everything going on that they're losing hope. And there is a lot of hope. There's a lot of great examples, and I think that there's a tremendous amount that we can do, both as individuals and as that we need to do as a society. And we can, and we are, and we will. But we got to decide what we can. And if we have lost hope and we give up, then it's over.
Yeah, and
And
I'm with you on that. And I think this idea of how to provide that, especially for the younger generation, so that us old graybeards are able to show them that, don't give up. You guys are the future. You can do this. And we can be at least some ideas of why this is not just a pie in the sky idea, that the hope is a very real thing.
yep,
Then we've
exactly.
done something worthwhile in the
We're
world.
leaving a legacy behind for future generations. I think that's exactly right. So great. So let's get started, if we shall, if that's okay with you, sir. Thank you very
Sure.
much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do and your
Sure.
background and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, my name is Steve Cowan, and I'm a pediatrician with a subspecialty in child development. And my story lays into some of the questions you and I were going to talk about today. I started out in general pediatrics in New York City in the 80s, where all hell was breaking loose. You had crack wars and HIV was bursting, and it was really a tough time in the city. And my training was like a war training. I was like literally like kind of hardcore, down and dirty at St. Luke's Hospital and Roosevelt Hospital in Columbia, where it was just intense. Good for me to really learn, and I really embraced that training. But I got more and more interested in uh, children's development and how it impacts chronic illness. And it was that link between chronic illness and development that intrigued me. And it took me into this direction that really blew my mind. It kind of opened me up to things that pertain to everything you're doing. And I'll show you the link. By the end of this hour, I want to show you the link between those two things. How a child's health is directly linked to the planet we're on. Now, it seems logical, but not just health. I mean, mental health, spiritual health, physical health is directly related to our relationship to the planet. And I didn't really know this. I'm taught medicine in a kind of weird, narrow box of, the faster I could label something with what's wrong with you, the more pats on the back I got. Right. And after a while, my wife would say, you know, you're really obnoxious. You walk down the street and you say, he's got that, he's got that, he's got that, he's got that. And I'm just a label gun. And that's not actually medicine. That's not health. That's saying what's wrong with everything, but it's not looking at what's right with people. So you're talking about this idea of providing a platform for hope. If you just say what's wrong with everything, we just demoralize everybody, and we're left with everybody sitting around going, oh, we're screwed. But if you can say what's right with what's going on, where are the possibilities? He's doing this, you're doing this, you've got this power, you've got... So this plays into my aha moment. Okay, good segue.
That's great. Go.
So my first job after this double training, I do all my pediatrics, then I do a developmental fellowship. My first job was out in, it got me to Westchester, actually. You know, I had 2 young children at the time. And I became the medical director of the Asthmatic Children's Foundation. I was very interested in that. And essentially, this was taking low socioeconomic kids in the city who had chronic debilitating asthma, like the worst cases, you know, in hospitals all the time. And I brought them to this beautiful facility that was built for me through St. Mary's Hospital in Ossining. And I became the medical director, and they said, Steve, make it whatever you want. So this is like a golden opportunity to be creative. And I'm a creative guy. I like to think outside the box a little bit. But I still had that mental medical take that was very kind of rigid. So I brought these life-threatening kids up who were on multiple meds and everything. And I'm going, what can I do to help these kids? And, you know, I'm a big outdoors guy. I was an Eagle Scout. I do a lot of hiking and mountain climbing and stuff like that in my life. And I said, all right, well, we're going to start a program where I take them on hikes. This is in the woods. You know, it was like really great. And these kids had never even been in, you know, parks. Their parents were so afraid of them going outside, right? Second thing is I brought in a nutritionist, and we were going to feed them real food, not artificial processed food. And the third thing, every morning, because I moved my family up to basically live on the premises of this beautiful little place. Every morning, because I had done Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation for years, martial arts stuff I was interested in. So I got everybody out in the morning, set up this thing where they would do breathing exercises every morning, simple exercises, you know, basic stuff, right? Get people back in their body. And I saw this aha moment, this kind of miracle. Within about 3 weeks of a kid coming from one of these ICUs or ERs or terrible places, I get them off all their medication, all of it.
3 weeks?
3 to 4 weeks. And I'm monitoring them every day, so I have a completely controlled place, right? I get them off all their meds, and the habit of going for it is still there. You know, they walk and they say, oh, I need my inhaler, you know, because it's just fear.
Right, sure.
Kind of like COVID right now, where everybody's living in fear instead of realizing they can empower themselves.
Yeah.
And I went running back to Columbia to the pulmonology department and said, you're not going to believe this. Some of these kids that you referred me, I got them on 0 meds. And they said, come on, Steve, that's impossible. Because the way we were taught, and this is really important, and this links up to everything you're doing. The way we were taught is when it's broken, you have to keep doing the same thing. You can't change the system, right? It's just, that's just the way it is, right? Fossil fuel, that's just the way it is. We have too many cars to change it now, right? Same thing. Same philosophy in medicine. No, they need their steroids. It's just, they have, you know, their airway system is broken. And I was like, this aha moment. I said, wait, you guys don't get it. I'm witnessing this. I'm not making this up. You know, I have these kids, you know, so this opened up my ideas to, you know, and I was a very, you know, straight and narrow pediatrician. You know, I had child of the 60s. I had my own stuff, but I never thought of introducing anything that I do, meditation or martial arts or qigong or breathing or tai chi or anything, to my patients. That was like a no-no. Don't step over that line. And so this opened up my idea to studying other forms of medicine. And so now my practice has kind of exploded. You know, I did that for a number of years. I got very frustrated because, you know, kids would go back into the city and then they'd go to their old doctor and he'd say, "What is this? You're not on any of your meds." And they put them right back on, and everything, it kind of broke my heart. And so I started a practice in Croton that blew up. I was in the right place at the right time. That's where I met Oscar as a little kid.
Mm.
And I got to see some amazing things there. You know, as my mind is expanding into other forms of medicine, mind-body medicine, holistic diet, you know, looking at environmental factors and health and all of these things that were becoming more and more prevalent in the 90s, I was kind of on that cutting edge and introducing it in my practice, and parents were loving it. A lot of the young parents wanted this stuff. They're open-minded to it. And here's a doctor who's been educating himself, because in medical school, you don't learn about healthy food or exercise or the basics, right? And then I started studying a more ecological medicine. And the most ecology-based medicine is Chinese medicine, because it's been around for thousands of years. It evolved at a time with farming community, hunting and farming and tracking were the culture, right? And it's the oldest living medicine. And when I got deep into the study of this it's like a philosophy of earth-based medicine, I found my patients got better in all different kinds of ways, you know, cognitively better. You know, one of my specialties is ADD, and I feel part of the problem in the ecology movement is that we're distracted. We're not focused. We get distracted by all kinds of things. You know, the whole country, the whole society has ADD. And as a boy growing up, I had ADD. You know, wanted to be outside playing instead of sitting in a classroom, right? A lot of boys feel that way.
We're all on the spectrum, aren't we?
Exactly, exactly. And so this became a part of my interest in how to help people pay attention differently to their body and their connection to the planet. And so one of the things that I love about even your title of this awesome earth kind, AWES, is Chinese medicine defines these four directions with a fifth element. And you even picked out the fifth element being us. And when I heard that, he knows this about me because I've been treating him for a long time. And I said, sign me up, because this is an organic way of understanding how we can help not only ourselves live longer, live healthier, live happier, more resilient, deal with stress better, but help our family, the dynamics of our family, and help the planet all at the same time. Because, you know, you asked me, or Oscar, or one of you emailed me and said, let's start with a power quote, right? Some quote.
That'd be great.
And the quote for me is by Einstein. And what he said, and it's perfect because you call it a quantum quote. Einstein said, "Knowledge is limited. Imagination circles the world." And everything I do in my practice is to open up possibilities through imagination. Because I think a lot of the speakers that you've had, these great guests, you can see in their stories this idea, and you're an epic example of this idea of people who are limited in their imagination compared to people who are willing to open up their imagination to a bigger picture. And we evolved as humans to do that. You know, the Neanderthal became extinct because he couldn't connect the past to the future through the present. Brain capacity just could not link the two. Yeah, he partied. He was like a 14-year-old partying all the time, right? We brought down a woolly mammoth. Let's party.
Hey!
And then that was it. And the humans came into town, and this is one of our inherited gifts. And, you know, probably some woman said to the guy, hey, honey, last year when the ice came, half the tribe died. Why don't we put some more food in the cave this year? Game changer.
Wow.
Connecting what happened in the past to what's going to happen in the future. Right? This is a game changer. We are nature, is this kind of powerful idea for me that we're not something other than nature. We are nature. It's built into us, right? We evolved on the planet. I'm going to show you a picture. I want to share a picture for you that I give to every single parent and every kid in my practice.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a simple one. I call it the cosmic snowman.
The
Ready?
Cosmic Snowman. Folks, we're going to, for those who aren't watching this on YouTube, they're just
I'll
listening,
describe it. I'm going to describe it.
That'd be great. And we're also going to post it on the website too. So
yeah. So the cosmic snowman is basically, if everybody who's just listening and not seeing, imagine a snowman in your mind. And, you know, you all know that what happens, Ron, if you put the big circle on the top of the snowman instead of on the bottom, what happens?
well, hopefully it stays there.
Yeah, hopefully that. If I put
actually, crush. If you put the big circle at the top, that's it, man. You're crushing everything else.
It's not stable. It's going to fall over. You know, a little wind and it just falls over.
Yep.
It's top heavy, right?
Right.
So in this model, you always, every little kid who can draw a snowman always puts the big circle on the bottom. That's intelligence, right? That is a quality of a perfectly logical way, and we evolved that way. So if you imagine the big circle on the bottom, there are these 5 areas. This is called the reptilian brain, our oldest brain. It goes back to the time we were fish and lizards. And it's what I call the rhythm section. I love music. I love rock and roll. The rhythm section, the bass and the drum, that's this big circle. It's Ron, it's you from the neck down.
Yep.
That's the brain from the neck down neurologically. So in your brainstem, you have this wiring system that goes out to your heart, to your stomach, to your bladder, to your muscles, to your skin, to everything. And it's unbelievably important to connect to the rhythms of the planet. So if everybody imagines a clock on that big circle, at 12 o'clock you put sensing, at 2 o'clock put eating, at 5 o'clock put breathing. These are all basic rhythms. At 7 o'clock put sleeping, and at 10 o'clock put moving. These are the basic rhythms that when they are in sync with our surroundings, because this is so old in us, it sends a message to our parasympathetic nervous system, you're safe, you're grounded, you're centered. These are the, you know, kind of hippie language we might use to say you're actually present, connected to the planet.
And you're not in a fight or flight kind of situation,
right?
Now you're in a flow. Yep, go ahead.
That's right. You're in a flow, but it's in a rhythm of the flow, right? So that it's exactly right. And each of these rhythms, you know, knowing when you're half full in eating, knowing when you feel sleepy. You know, Ron, we were going to do this last week and we couldn't because I blew out power, right? And I was like kind of bumming out. It was a little intense, you know, because here we are in COVID land, and the only way I've been connecting to anybody is through the internet. And I don't have any internet. I don't have any electricity. And my wife and I are, you know, cooking in the dark, and you know, it was kind of rough, but there was a silver lining. There's always a silver lining when you're an out-of-the-box thinker like you and me and many of your guests. The silver lining was it forced me to go to bed when the sun went down. I got way better sleep. And there was no engines running. There was nothing. It was like so peaceful. And I'd wake up with the birds in the morning, get my work done. when the light was out, you know. I love Thomas Edison, but he screwed everybody because now we can stay up till 3 in the morning if we want. Right? And he gave us motors and, you know, all kinds of things that are wonderful, but you can detach from nature. Sleep is one of the most essential ways we consolidate memory. Now, remember what I said about the Neanderthal and the Neolithic caveman human who could connect the past to the future. You got to have a good working memory system, or else, as you see in our society, we forget from one moment to the next. You have Sandy, and then we forget, right, that we're going to have another storm. We just reboot. And this is where change doesn't happen. That's the hopelessness. The hope comes when you can connect the past to the future, so you're not making the same stupid mistake over and over again. Movement, being in your body, proprioception is this kind of ground floor awareness of where you are in space. Now, I'm going to ask you a question because I know you know the answer. Where's the best way to feel like you're in your body in space?
Where is the
Yeah,
best way?
where would you go, you as Ron, where would you go in the world to be in your body, feel like you're really in your body, moving, you know, free and easy and in flow, like you called it?
In nature.
Totally, right?
Yep.
Nature has this kind of organic, analog way. There are no straight lines. Everything is moving. The breeze, the sounds, everything is enlivening you to be in the flow. This is what I was doing with these asthmatic kids when I took them on hikes, right? If I put a kid in a box, let's call it a classroom, where they got to sit in a seat all day long, how much are they in their body? And this is the ground floor, guys. Right? This is what keeps us feeling safe. Neurologically, neurochemically, all the messages are you are safe, this is your homeland, you're in the right place. So we call that homeland security. Now, the circle in the middle, I draw a heart in the middle of that snowman circle. That's our fight or flight. I call it the puppy brain. That's our animal brain. We evolved from reptiles to become these animals. This is where our passions are. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is where fight, flight, excite, you know, all kinds of weird behaviors come out because we're trying to get our needs met, because this is where our emotions come out. It's called the emotional limbic system brain. And it lives very much in the intensity of now. You know, when your house is on fire, that's not the time to sit down and have a nice discussion with Ron about getting out of the house. You just move.
That's it.
But what happens is the more you live in fight or flight, the more it throws off the rhythm section downstream.
Hmm.
By default, you're not supposed to have a nice, quiet meal when your house is on fire. You're not supposed to breathe nice and easy. You're not supposed to take a nap. You're not supposed to move gracefully like a dancer, right? And most of all, your senses aren't supposed to integrate. You're just looking for a way out of the burning house. You're not merging all your senses the way we're supposed to. So there's a true neurologic way that we live here, and a lot of our society is built around feeding fight or flight nature. Now, the gift of humans is that little smiley face at the top of your snowman. This is our human gift. This is where, Ron, your hope sits. Because this is where we connect the past to the future through imagination. And there are all kinds of beautiful things that come out of that imagination. Problem solving, all the things that your guests are coming on to do, you can only do it there. But if you're living in fight or flight now, brain, like your guest Sklar was talking about, where he was kind of humiliated, but he's stubborn because people kept saying to him, you can't be done, it can't be done, it can't be done. Right? They're living in the now brain, and he's living up here going, oh, it's okay, I'm persisting because I can see the big picture.
Yep.
Right? And these are big picture thinking, big picture, getting our actually purpose on why humans are on the planet, why we evolve. Inner peace, inner freedom, inner joy, inner harmony, inner grace. These are the this is where all of our true innovations and entrepreneurial spirit takes place. And the more you live in fight or flight day to day, just trying to survive, you never get that big aha.
So,
So, so for me, if I can change anything in the world, I want to be able to start my revelation in all of this, what children have taught me in 37 years of working with kids of all different kinds, and my subspecialty is kids with developmental problems, so they're particularly good teachers for me, is about resilience, about how to grow in a resilient way. And I'm going to ask you and everybody who's listening, have you ever seen a plant grow from the top down?
would you say a potato? Is that way?
Nope. Still has to grow from the ground up. It
Okay, I
needs,
thought.
if you grow a potato hanging
Uh-huh,
in the air,
uh-huh.
you're not going to get anything. You got
Okay,
to grow from the ground.
okay. Yeah, I was only teasing just because I'm
No, no,
thinking
I
of
love it. I love it. You can do
other eggplants
hydroponics,
or whatever. Yeah, something. Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
but the bottom line is the roots got to go down
yeah. Uh-huh.
before. If you ever take an avocado pit and
Hmm.
try to grow it, you put it with the toothpicks, and
Right.
it's for before it sends that stem up, it sends a root down.
Hmm.
That's a very natural way for all living things to grow. We build buildings that way. Have you ever seen a building built from the top down? The Empire State Building, imagine they're hanging there and they're going to hold something there and try to build it from the top down. They can't do it.
Hmm.
So that snowman, I want to change. My end game of my passion is to change the way we educate kids, whether it's in a family or in a school, with ground up thinking instead of top down thinking. Before you teach a kid math, teach them how to sit, teach them how to walk in the woods, teach them how to mindfully eat, teach them what it feels like when you're half full. Susan Johnson's done a lot of research on this and shown that kids who know when they're half full pay attention better in school, cognitively learn better, can deal with stress better, don't raise their blood pressure when they get older, don't get fat, just by paying attention to when you're half full. But if you're mindlessly eating in front of the TV because you're completely unplugged from your body, which is the earth, the body doesn't know what to do. It's like the boss isn't there, it's on its own. Right? You said it so well. You had these 5 elements, these 4 elements, with this me being in the center of it, right? That's the way you presented it, which I love. If you're not in the center, they're all working on their own.
Hmm.
And it's the relationship between air and water, and the relationship between earth, soil and sun. They're not independent things. And the meeting place, if you were to draw it like a compass, where we are is the meeting place. We're the agency of getting these things to get along, right?
Yeah.
That's why, like you said to me earlier, if we can get all these things working, you know, wind power and water power, but why does it have to be one or the other, right? Nature favors diversity. Societies tend to favor conformity because it's easier, right? Everybody do the same thing. It's kind of, since Henry Ford, it's kind of an assembly line mentality. And we've built that into medicine because it seems efficient. Oh, you're 12 years old, you get this shot, you're off next. It moves everybody along very quickly. In education, the same thing. Oh, you're 5 years old, you start kindergarten. Doesn't matter who you are. Now, when I uh, now understanding that, one of your questions for me was, what's the worst, energy moment? Here's one. So here I'm setting the stage for how I got to this, right? This story of my life, of how it opened me up to realizing we are Earth. And if I want children to grow up healthy in mind and body and spirit, cognitively imaginary, open up the possibilities of imagination so they are truly the hope of the future, then I got to change stuff in terms of what we're teaching. And so one of the first things I tried to do was try to change the food that was being fed to kids in schools in Westchester. And I had this a team of people, and we talked to each school and a bunch of people, and gave raps and taught them about the importance of healthy eating and what you eat. And as John Lennon said, you are what you eat. And so, do you want to be something that doesn't have any real food in it, or do you want to eat real food, which is nature, which the body has evolved to digest, or some food-like substance that the body's never seen before? Why do you think the rise in allergies in any industrialized country are exactly parallel to the industrialization, right? China 30 years ago had really very little allergy. Allergy wasn't a big deal. But as they became industrialized, all of a sudden this became a bigger and bigger problem, along with other problems. But it's very apparent that the more we live a artificial life in terms of the food we eat, just that as an example, and the detachment from nature, the more our body gets confused and starts setting off red flags. Emergency, emergency, we're not in Kansas anymore, right? And those emergencies are our immune system saying, uh-oh, we're, inflammation. Right? So I go to these schools, I give them my rap, I say, look, this is better for you, I'm a pediatrician, I'm just looking out for you, right? People freaked out. Can't be done, it'd be too expensive, all the things you've heard in everything you're trying to do. But this is about just feeding kids. I said, look, kids are in school to learn. Let's make eating part of their learning. I even tried it in their teaching medical students this, because they don't learn anything about nutrition. Isn't that amazing?
It really is
They,
amazing. I mean,
they get 2 hours of it as an elective.
wow.
It's a choice. They can do, in most medical schools, it's a choice between a 2 hour elective in nutrition or a 2 hour course in how to make more money. Which do you think they take?
Yeah.
So I did this, and this was my disaster, because they said, no, it can't be done, can't be done. It really was a failure of mine. And it taught me a real lesson about how to move people. And I went back and said, I got to do this family by family. I can't change the system, because the system is, very what we call fixed mind thinking. Do you know about that?
A
Fixed
little bit.
mind?
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
growth mind and fixed mind. Carol Dweck, one of the books I recommend in my, one of the questions about,
mhm.
what books, one of the books I recommend is Mindset by Carol Dweck. And it's a beautiful book. Stanford psychologist done great research showing how you think is going to change, determine how successful you're going to be.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
totally.
But she
Yeah.
proved it over and over again. And fixed mind thinking is black and white thinking. And it leads directly to I can't or you can't thinking. Whereas growth mind thinking is very organic thinking. I picture it like a tree in your mind. That's how I describe it to kids. Just keeps growing and growing, requires the water and the air, and the soil and the sun, all these elements for it to grow. And then you problem solve in a much more creative way. And she's shown again and again and again, when kids have growth mind thinking, they are way more, exponentially more successful in their life. This is unlocking Einstein's imagination. And how do we grow from the ground up? Connection to Earth. Right?
So, Steve, you basically, what I believe, in a nutshell, what you're saying is this: is that in your experience and over 30 years of working with kids, what you've seen is that when they're disconnected from nature, they
Right?
have challenges. when they're not eating properly and putting natural food into their system, they have challenges. And that we can change that just by changing what we do and how we do it. That if we're
Correct.
just more mindful and get ourselves into nature and get back into sync, that all these challenges, and you proved it so well with kids that have asthma, that are on medication, that can't breathe, that sometimes even die because they're in this situation. Partially, it's because of their environment and where they are, and the particulates and the air pollution around them, especially in heavy urban areas. But
Right.
in addition, it's being totally divorced from being out in nature and being connected with the
E-
cycles of life.
Even more so, exactly right. Well said, and a good synopsis of the whole idea of my life. And it's been shown to me again and again and again. So it's not some nice idea I have. It's evidence-based medicine. It's right there for us to see in our nature, right? And when we say spend more time in nature, even that I have now, I'm starting to have a problem with that because we are nature. So it means spending more time in your body and getting out of your head a little bit, right? We're spending way too much time feeding the mind before we're feeding our body experience. And it's so much more fun for kids to learn what it feels like to be nature. And when you make these small changes in a kid's health, you're actually contributing to the health of the planet.
Yeah, makes total
That's one of the
sense.
big take-home messages, right? And it shouldn't have to take your kid getting sick for you to wake up to that. Sometimes it does. Just like sometimes it takes COVID for people to suddenly slow down, and now all of a sudden they can hear the birds outside because the traffic is less. And wow, I didn't know there were so many birds, right? So sometimes it takes big disasters in your life, in the planet, to wake us up to the reality that we are living nature. Here's another example of we are nature, real practical. In our gut, there's something called a microbiome. Microbiome is basically the Amazon rainforest within us. And if there are, approximately 10 million human cells in our body, there are 100 million non-human cells living in our rainforest. Now, when you take a kind of indigenous culture person and you do a stool sample on them, the diversity of that microbiome is unbelievable. And you take an average person, doesn't have big health problems, you know, you or me, and you do a stool sample, it's like not even half the diversity. Just living here, we've cut the diversity of these, what we'll call our ecology or our helpers, right? These are our homeland security, ground floor of the snowman, security, homeland security system in our gut. And just being born by C-section, you've robbed yourself of that. Or just just not being around dirt. You can be living in the inner city and still go play in the dirt in a park. When they've looked at Amish culture, right, who don't do any of, and they're very land centric, earth centric, they have way less allergies, way less asthma, and their microbiome is much more diverse just from working the land. Now, not all of us in reality can do that, but there are little things we can do that are heroic things in our day, tiny little things that reconnect us to nature in our body. And it could be anything as simple as going for a walk. I live like you in a fairly rural country area. So a few years ago, one of the questions you asked me was something that you do that you feel good about is contributing to this cause that we're both in. I started with my kids when they were little, I started composting. Everything that we, ate, except for, meat. And my wife's a vegetarian. I now am by default because it's just cheaper and it's probably not that good for me. I eat fish, but I can make soil. I mean, my kids, it was mind blowing to them that, wait, Dad, you're making soil? I said, yeah. The banana peel is going to become soil. And then I don't have to go buy the soil from someone else. One little thing.
Nice.
And such a mind blowing thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, right? I mean, so all right. So, given that we do have this diverse society where we have a good chunk of people living in cities, though,
Yep.
and cities are clearly not the best of nature. You can do some things of natural origin there with parks and then composting to make your own soil and such. Clearly one of the things that we need to do is to deal with the whole climate situation, which is electricity, heating, and transportation that are the key,
Key.
sources of greenhouse gases that we
That's right.
absolutely need to move. And one of the things, if we could talk a little bit about the psychological impact of this, very overwhelming climate disaster that these kids are, dealing with. They're waking up and they're like, oh my gosh, the fear that they have. How do you deal
Yes.
with that, Steve? How do you
Yeah, it's really a
deal with
good
that?
question, because I'm seeing a trend, particularly in the last 10 years, of the younger kids, the 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, living in a kind of chronic state of fight or flight fear that the planet's going to end. And one of my heroes uh, gives me hope. Someone like Greta Thunberg, who and people like her, and I see a lot of kids like her who have, and Oscar Pack, people whose mind is awakened to the impending disaster at younger and younger ages. How do you deal with the fear is the first question. And how do we transform that in from fear to hope? Or a better word than even hope is what I'll call empowerment. So, how are we empowering them to get out of fight or flight? Because, as again, the more you live in fight or flight, the more disconnected you are from the rhythm section. So, there are many, many different things you do. I started a nonprofit to address exactly the question you're asking. It's like perfectly stated question. Because fear paralyzes, it limits your imagination, and particularly aimed at uh, less fortunate kids who don't have the luxury of going for a walk in the woods or composting or anything like that. And what I've done is gamify the whole thing because kids get used to, they like games. Most people learn by playing, right? If I even playing guitar, you got to noodle around first, right? So playing is the key to everything. So I set this nonprofit up called Tournesol Kids, Tournesol, kids.org or t-kids.org, to help kids learn games to reconnect them and deal with their stress, their fear, and reconnect them to their body, to nature, right? And all these little simple games, really, really simple stuff. And I'm kind of passionate about that. And I'm on the advisory board of another kind of place, another new organization to bring this into education, this wellness, well-being, as well as academics in schools, called the Whole Child Ed .org. These are two really good websites for you guys to think about. t-kids.org and uh, Well Child Ed. And this idea that we can connect in a simple way to nature like this. And there's a game I play called Eating an Orange, right? Just eating an orange or a grape. And you take it, and before you eat it, you look at it and really examine it. And with little kids, I'm talking about 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, and you say, whoa, what's this little thing coming off the tip there? What do you think that's for? And, oh, Dr. Steve, that's what goes on the branch. What does the branch go to? Why does it connect that way? And then they tell me, I let them teach me. That's the empowerment part. And I take it further. I say it goes into the ground, you know, it's the trunk of the tree and the vine, ground, earth. Well, how did it get here in my hand? The farmer. Well, how did the farmer get it to me? He had to put it in a box. How did he get, what did he do with the box? He had to get it, you know. So you're connecting in imagination to how that little thing you're eating, all before they taste it, right? I get them to connect all the way back to where that started as a seed, right, in their mind. And sometimes I do it with pictures and things so they can envision it, because that's one of our great powers of hope, is the power to envision. And then I say, okay, let's taste it, or let's peel the orange and smell it, get the senses awake. And don't swallow it, chew it a little bit. And while you're chewing it, think of the farmer. And think of the water he had to use. Now, do you want to be eating an orange with dirty water? Right? And, ew, and all the kids are like, they're embodying this experience that we're trying to teach. You're not going for a walk. You simply say, all right, now swallow it. Where do you think it goes once you swallow it? And I take it into their body and into their cells, right? Now, there's something I want to talk about really quick, because I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm seeing a very scary trend in kids. Over the last 10, 15 years, I've been watching this increasing trend that I'm finding kids having a harder and harder time closing their eyes and seeing a picture of something in their mind. I didn't even realize it was a problem because I naturally do it. I'm a very visual guy. And when I was young, I learned to read by learning tracking from Native American guys because I couldn't read. It was like dyslexic or something. And these trackers taught me to read by reading animal tracks. And then I could read. So I know how important it is, but I'm finding this trend and I've been thinking, why are kids not able to visualize anymore? Why do you think?
Hi. So let's see. So one is the images are being presented to them in various different formats, right?
Exactly right.
They're not using their
Exactly.
imagination. They're
It's
shutting that
done
off.
for them.
Yeah.
Everything is spoon fed.
Mm.
We've got video games and internet and everything is laid out for them. They don't have to imagine Harry Potter anymore. They just watch the movie.
Mm.
And there are some kids who got turned on to reading again because of Harry Potter. And they said, that's not what I saw him looking like. And I said, all right, you're in. But some kids say, it takes too much time. I'm just going to watch the movie. And so one of the big problems, the mess we've gotten into in our culture, whether it's, fossil fuels or, whatever that has to change, is through kind of this concept of speed and efficiency or convenience, right? It's inconvenient to take an extra step and visualize what you're, going to eat for dinner. You just want to do fast food, so I don't have to think about it. It's just done. So, this problem of efficiency is hard for us as humans. We naturally think speed is better, right? When I first got my first computer, right, my first home computer, 1991, and I brought it home. The kids brought their friends over to watch it. It had a, you know, 24K modem, and it was, painting the screens, right? And everybody's wow, right? And then I said, no, I've got a new modem. I got a 56K modem, and everybody's like, whoa, blowing everybody away on the block, right? If I were to give you that now, you'd be going out of your mind. Like you're pulling your hair out because it's taking you banging on the keys. Come on, come on, come on, right? This is our whole society. We're constantly moving faster and faster and faster, and we can't go backwards. And some of the resistance to reconnecting to alternate power sources, time and nature, it feels inefficient, because it may take a little more time, but it's way better. It's, you know, it has more power to it in the long run because it's a win-win. So this problem of speed, I'm struggling with in trying to explain to the powers that be that speed is not everything. Taking time, as I learned last week when we lost power, taking time brings a deeper sense of peace, and my creativity changes. I think more clearly. So I think, you know, in some ways, some of the things, for example, if you go to the website ewg.org, Environmental Working Group, very, very good site for parents to go to if they want to start making changes in their kids' environment, meaning what they eat, what lotions they put on them. They're really very scientific, great resource for people to look at when they're making choices about environmentally friendly products to keep in the house. Right? There are some other groups that I'm advising, you know, to create cleaning products, right, that are environmentally friendly. And this is where my passion lies now, because if you give people choice, the the hook for any parent is love, you know, and you capitalize on love. This is safer for your kid, and I know you love your kid. Make the right choice, right? And that's bit by bit, step by step, kid by kid, family by family. You make big change.
Wonderful. So, okay, just to play the devil's advocate for a minute.
Go for it.
So I want my kid to be healthy and happy. I want to obviously feed him well as I can, given my financial situations. You know,
Right.
everybody's got a different
No,
piece
that
there,
can be challenging for
right?
sure.
And if you're living, let's say, in a city next to a highway where they're spewing all the trucks and the cars are
Right.
going by, and then your building is burning old oil, and you got all these particulates in the air, and you got this massive ecological load that's being dumped on you. Clearly, just changing our mental state is not going to be enough,
It's not
probably.
enough.
So it's got to be a whole integrated approach. Is that pretty much?
Not, well, yes, it's got to be an integrated approach. But again, as I've been saying from the beginning, if you remember the snowman, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be a ground up approach, a
Mm-hmm.
grassroots approach.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be a top down change. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that that change, because of the love of parents, they get their landlord to change it. They move, that integrated approach has to be a movement from the power. There's nothing more powerful than a mother, right? And you get two mothers together, you've got more than twice as much power. You get three together, you get four, you get five. And so this is how change takes place, right? Because I could say, all right, make a new law, right? And then there's going to be only loopholes for these guys, right? They're going to find a loophole that they can still use their fossil fuels, or still burn unclean, still have heating systems, or worse, you know, ventilation systems. You know, one of the problems we're about to face in 3 weeks is kids going back to school in COVID time. And what they're not thinking about is these horrible ventilation systems in classrooms, particularly in the city. Doesn't matter whether you're wearing a mask. You know, you're condensing crap into the air, which is something that COVID can stay in the air longer because it's not circulating air in a proper and healthy way. So it sometimes takes, I prefer not to use the old medical model of using fear to change people. I prefer to empower people to make change out of love. And I really truly believe that, because I've seen it, that when you get, um, let's take the overwhelming odds against someone living in unfortunate circumstances, low socioeconomic state, where the building is falling apart and there's not even a market with fresh food nearby, much less a park that's safe enough to play in. All these overwhelming odds that you laid out. What do? You start by working with physical body awareness, real daily practice to get people plugged into what doesn't feel healthy. Because I think in these overwhelming situations that you're talking about, we are in like some weird lab experiment where we actually become numb to how unhealthy the world is. We're adapting to it. And so then we're like, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's cheese whiz. So what? It doesn't really affect my mood. Get off the couch. It doesn't affect my mood. So becoming more, it's not just mind. You're right. It is a step-by-step integrated approach of looking at air quality, water quality, food quality, physical exercise quality, right? A lot of schools are cutting down less and less gym because there's no time. Feed the brain, feed the brain, feed the brain, no time, right? All these things are the things that have to be cried out. And I think if you teach children, they're the ones who make the change. Imagine, here's a thought experiment. Imagine a little kid in the inner city who raises his hand, teacher, isn't that like not good for us in the classroom? Shouldn't we have turn the heat down? Because it's boiling in this classroom and that can't be good for us. It doesn't feel good in my airway. Imagine a little kid just raising her hand and saying that. Golden opportunity to make change. Kids, out of the mouth of babes, kids are my teachers. That's where change takes place. That's the hope of the future. You get them when they're young. Don't wait till they're old fogies like me. It's the young kids, not through fear, but through what it feels like. It's got to be a felt experience. If it's an intellectual experience of mind, as you said, it won't change anything. But if they don't feel good, you're much more likely to make change.
So for people who have kids and are in any sort of environment, what's the 1, 2, 3 you would recommend that they do to help get their kids on a path to deal with both the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the three brains?
Yeah. So the 1, 2, 3, I mean, what's the secret of life, right? Eat, sleep, and poop. If you're doing those well, you're all right. Do you know that the United States is the most constipated country in the world? Do you know that we sell more constipation over-the-counter crap than any other drug? It's a multi-billion-dollar business. Why is that? That's not right. My grandfather said, have a good dump, you'll be happy, right? And the reality is, eat, sleep, poop. When I'm presented with a newborn baby or, a two-week-old, and the parents say, Doc, how do you know he's healthy? I said, is he eating? Well, no, not really. I said, all right, we got to look at that, right? No, he's eating like a champ. All right, there's 1 point of your 1, 2, 3, right? Eat, sleep, poop. So we have to focus on those 3 first. Then we add in the other 2 of that clock I did of the snowman, which is movement. Get yourself moving, get the blood moving, get that chi moving, get out there, move. I don't care if you're in do anything just to get your blood moving, because we are sitting more and more and more and more. And you get stagnant, right? It's not healthy. And then feel. That's the 12 o'clock one. Sensing. Merge your senses. Feel stuff. Feel from the inside out. Feel from the outside in. What does it feel like? Get that awareness. Try to visualize. I'm going to finish with one simple exercise for you. I mean, I have a ton of them because, like I said, I gamified them. And maybe I'll come back and I'll do all the games for you. But the simple one, ready? Ron, close your eyes. And on a scale of 1 to 10, check in on your stomach right now. We've been talking for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Check in on your stomach and how full is it right now? Don't go
70.
by you thinking.
7, 7, 7.
Beautiful, beautiful. So open your eyes. That is an exercise. You don't realize how neurologically game changer a simple thing like that is.
Mm.
It seems too simple.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're aware, I'm at a 7. I'm not 10, which is Thanksgiving stuffed,
Right.
and I'm not 0 or 1. Okay, you know, I feel okay. I'm 7. I'm plugged into my body, right? If I'm, let's say, moving from a 7 to an 8, and I don't have the little idiot light on my car telling me go to the gas station, right? I'm aware. Now I'm going to think twice about what I want to eat because it's not an emergency. When you eat with emergency fight or flight eating, you naturally eat crap because it's like quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
Just by that simple, seems too simple to be true, getting families to sit at the dinner table and say, hey, who tells me when they're at half full? As a game is plugging you in to something way deeper, what we'll call deep ecology within your body.
Interesting.
And you're going to make different changes when you do.
All right. I'm going to take you on to a couple of quick things just because we're going to have to edit this down because
you edit it down.
we've gone on.
Edit it away.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. I'm just saying. But meanwhile, I still want to get to a couple other things. So
hit me.
We've done a bunch of different pieces, but let's see. Yeah, we'll happen in the pulsar round really quick.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, this is fun. So what's the best advice you ever received?
Okay, best advice I ever received was from Big Sam, who was one of my heroes. My first year in the ERs of the bowels of the city. Big Sam was this prince of a guy, talked in very low voice, and he said, Stephen, when they go up, you go down. Meaning when everybody's freaking out, drop it down.
Nice.
And what you can do in a room of freaked out parents or sick people, you can ground the whole room just by calming everybody down by you going down first. They go up, you go down.
Nice. Good.
That's part of the ground floor up principle.
Yeah, makes total sense. Fantastic. One of your personal habits that contributes to your success, sir?
I would say I make an intention every morning to get up a little earlier and go outside. I've been doing Tai Chi for 25, 30 years. Clear my head, get out of my head. Simple habit that a man taught me many years ago. I do not check my phone before I do my exercises.
Good thinking. Yeah, I gotta get back to that one.
You'd be surprised what a simple thing. The urge to check what's happening, it's going to change your day because you've prioritized this head over heart or body.
Yep. Great.
And that's going to raise your blood pressure very quietly without you realizing it.
Yep.
Spend a little time on planet Earth before you go to planet Ron.
I agree. And some days I'm better at it than others. And when I let myself get distracted, I'm just going to check one little thing. Then all of a sudden hours go by and I'm like, what happened to the day? And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's great advice.
Prioritize the earth.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And remember, your body is the earth. So prioritize the earth.
Thank you very much. You've already given us a couple of internet resources and some books, so that's great. If you wouldn't mind just shooting me an email with those.
I'll give you there are 3. There's one third one called Nonviolent Communication, which I'm a big fan of. Marshall Rosenberg, very, very effective for any parent learning how to, in my mind, any environmental activist should know nonviolent communication. Which is a ground-up philosophy of working with people who are adversaries, who say, no, it can't be done that way. You never. And there's a way of doing like a Jedi thing with them and say, these are not the droids you're looking for. You know, there is a way of doing that by working on a real empathy-based communication method.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Sounds
so I'll
great.
give you those.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. All right, if you could wave a magic wand, what would change one thing for everyone in the world? What would it be?
Well, I've already talked about it a little bit, but you know, I would say if I could make a magic wand, change the whole flow of education to start ground up, body first, then mind,
Excellent.
not mind first.
Yep, makes total sense. All right, WTF or
Yeah, I
F?
love
I knew
this
you
one.
would like that one. Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah, you got it.
So they're both in one. You know, it's a wonderful and a terrible thing. Okay, so I finished college, bright-eyed. I'm about to go travel. You know, at the time, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. And so I decided to walk the Appalachian Trail by myself with no tent.
Wow.
Just get out there and walk. I started, you know, New York City. I'm walk across the bridge and I'm walking. Wacky thing to do back in, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the
Back anytime. Well,
70s.
walking that trail is a wacky thing to do, no matter what. But it's great. A lot of people
Yeah,
do it.
this was,
Right.
you know, 76. And so I, you know, I'm a New York City, you know, Long Island kid. I load up my pack with, you know, cans of food and I start walking. I get about a mile, you know, in and I go, what is that? This thing weighs a ton. And I sit down and I eat all my food because I figure
Oh.
there'll be stores, you know, along the trail, I'm sure, right? And so that's the first WF. Like all of a sudden, I'm now, you know, Delaware Water Gap, that area, right? I'm walking and no stores, no food. I'm starving, right? And I have a little Boy Scout manual and I'm looking for like, what can you eat? What is this a safe plant to eat, right? I'm literally starving 3 days, just drinking water and chewing on sticks, right? And I'm like dying here, you know, and it was at a time of the year where there weren't a lot of people on the trail. You know, I met somebody who gave me a little bit of trail mix and you know, I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm literally dying for, and I would go to sleep. I had a sleeping bag and I just fall asleep wherever, make a fire and fall asleep. There were a lot of exciting experiences of being alone in the woods like that that were very, very, very transformative for me. But finally, I'm in Pennsylvania and I come down from the mountains into this farm and it's miles of sunflowers. And I steal some sunflowers and running up into the woods and cook them up. Now, I've eaten in some of the finest restaurants in the world. I have never had a meal like those sunflowers, right? You can cook every part of a sunflower, the meat of it, the leaves, the stalk, everything. It was one of the most orgasmically great meals I've ever had. And then I ran down again so I don't run out, and I had more sunflowers. So I had them drying on my pack. And you get a nickname when you're traveling. I walked all the way down to Virginia. You know, you start getting a nickname along the trail, and I was known as the Sunflower Dude. So that's my WTF. It was an exploding moment for me.
Awesome.
Disaster turned into something quite amazing.
With sunflowers. How appropriate and awesome is that, huh? Wonderful. I love sunflowers. They're
Me
one of my
too.
favorite flowers.
Me too. And
All right.
that's why I called it Tournesol Kids. You know, it's why I
Yeah, that's
gravitated
it.
to it.
There you go. There you go. All right. What's one thing you're energized about today? Most energized about?
Kids like Oscar, you know, children who have been woken up thanks to someone like you, who's trying to wake people up, and you know, all the kids like Greta Thunberg who are saying, "No, I'm not." You know, you're ruining my future. That's what I'm energized by. That they're going to change this, and I want to support them in any way I can.
Fantastic. Yep, they're our future. They're our hope, and hopefully they won't hate us forever for what we've done and leaving them. So
They
that's the
won't
one
hate
challenge.
you, but they'll hate everybody else around you. So, you just stay true to your cause and you'll be, someone that they can get advice from.
It's all of us, right? So we all have our little pieces. None of us are perfect. We're all on the spectrum. We all got to learn.
That's right.
So
That's right.
so I think that that's the main thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, absolutely, we got to do it for the kids for sure. So, all
And
right,
their kids. Yeah.
yeah,
And the
and their
last
kids.
thing, the
Yeah,
last thing, which you were going to ask me is, what is that finale takeaway, right? Which for me is, one size doesn't fit all. Just remember that. We make ideas about how to change the planet and help the planet, and everybody's got their own little local ecology. And so what Joe Schmo in Arkansas is doing may work for him, but may not work for you, right? Diversity is what nature favors. Don't be so hard on yourself. Adapt to your local needs, right? And the same goes, I wrote a whole book about this. One kid may have a secret power that's very different than another kid's. We all have a gift to give, and we all have different personalities. We're not supposed to be this assembly line of kid or of human, right? Different styles, different senses of humor, different potentials. And when we get them all integrated, we get those five powers together, change the world.
well said. Yep, we are all unique. We all have our strengths. We all have our superpower, and we all have different needs. And we're all someplace along the spectrum of getting to where we want to be. So no throwing
Exactly.
stones. Just
That's,
figure out where you are and what we can do to take the next step. So
that's it. Beautifully
thank you
said.
so much, Dr. Cowan. This is fantastic. You are awesome. So on the off side for a second. So other people you think that I should
Oh,
reach
I
out
can think
to,
of
and
lots of people. I'm
oh,
going to
that'd be
email
great.
you a list of some people that I think would be great for you.
That would be wonderful. That'd be really fantastic. And if you could, share the word, spread the word a little bit. We need to develop an audience, which is a long time. It takes a while, I guess, but I'm hoping
Yeah,
that
but
folks.
I'm plugged into, I teach all around the world. And so I get asked to talk in a lot of places. And so I'll start generating some interest to the site and to you and, get some guests if I can. I think let's move the dial forward,
That's
And
it.
you're such a personable guy. You make it easy. You bring it out, you've got a good sense of humor. That's what we want. We don't want to be heavy.
Yeah, it's just you can't, like you said, you can't operate from fear. You operate from fear, it doesn't get you far.
Shuts everybody down. They stop hearing you.
Yeah, and absolutely. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Any recommendations, thoughts, suggestions, ideas?
You mean about people?
Well, and about the show too. So by
Well,
the way,
no, I love the
Oscar,
format. I love the format. I love what you're doing. I don't know if you're going to do them as visuals or as auditory. Most people are listeners. They're not going to even take the time to watch it. They're going to listen on their phone while they're driving or while they're doing whatever they're doing. So I like that you have both formats. And
okay. Yeah, Oscar is he's going to end the end of the month, so he's
I know.
decided that yeah that he's going to move on to whatever the next thing is for him. I'm hoping I suggested, and I don't know if it's the right thing. He's got to figure out what the right thing is for himself. But I suggested he does a vision quest someplace that goes off
That's what
and
I've been thinking for him too.
yeah,
Because I've been working with him on exactly that concept. Um, and I want him to meet himself
yeah.
in a deeper way. I've had so many experiences like that really are transformative. They take you out of your comfort zone, out of the mold. And so I'm glad you're suggesting that to him because I will reinforce that with him.
Yeah, he didn't seem to respond too well to it, which I'm sure he won't.
Well,
Once he hears this too, he'll probably be like, "Ah, well, you guys talked about me," but it's okay. You know why? Because I think he's one of the most incredible. I'll tell you,
he's
he's
such a
so
high
far.
potential. Yeah.
He is so far ahead of where I was at his age.
Me
I was
too.
totally
Me too.
oblivious. It was like,
Me too. And this is I've watched him grow from a
yeah,
little kid, and
I'll bet.
he is really in a very powerful place, but he's not owning his power yet. And something like a vision quest or a meeting yourself, or it could be as simple as it doesn't have to be so woo woo. It could be go work on a farm for a little while. Something that gets him out of his head. I really believe that'll be very good for him.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll see. You know, COVID has put a spin on everything.
Sure.
You know, I'm happy he's taking a year off. I think that's most of the college kids are smart enough to do that, and you know, it makes sense. Take advantage of. There's no rush.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, my
Totally agree.
path was like this to get to
Yeah,
medical
it
school,
always
you know.
is, right? It's just
Right.
it's never it's not too often it's a straight line. And when it is, it usually collapses later anyway. So
It collapses, or there's some midlife crisis.
right, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, well,
Yeah.
we're gonna hang up on this. When it hangs up, Zoom is gonna spin for a little while, and then at the end of the spinning, it'll say that there's a file someplace, and if you would, there's a file. The only file you need to look for is there's a directory. One says audio only, and then above that, there's another one. Which you open up that one, and it's gonna have your specific audio only file. It'll say your computer or your address, and you
Now
can
you want the audio file, you don't want
just
the video.
just the audio file. Hopefully, this has been a good video. We actually had a great connection, which is good. I'm so glad, given all your electric situation, that the video was the whole connection
Yeah,
was
yeah,
excellent. So
yeah,
yeah, no, we didn't have. I've had connections where people were blipping out in and
yeah,
out, and it
yeah.
was just so. And but no, this worked out really well. Thank you again so much for your time, and thank you
Real my
for
pleasure.
your
You,
insights. This is really fantastic,
yeah.
and yeah, well, we'll let you know what's going to air too. I got to go through it with Oscar and try
No
to figure out
worries, no
exactly when.
worries.
So
Yeah,
yeah, but
keep stay in touch though, you know, because let's keep our dialogue going. So if there are other ideas or people that you would think we'd really like to have someone in this area, do you know anybody? Just keep it going so that, you know, you and I can problem solve it together.
boy, that would be great. What I need to do at this point is one, keep the content going, keep people interested, and whoever listens, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I want to keep listening to this. This is great. I want to hear the next one." So striving to do that, but then simultaneously also getting out to other people's shows, because apparently one of the advice that people have is people who are listening to podcasts listen to podcasts. So you should get
Yeah.
on other people's shows. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts
Oh, to get
there,
you on other people's shows.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I mean, if
Let me think about that. That's a great idea. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, let me look into that. You
no,
know,
whatever, that'd be great.
who's doing podcasts for that? Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I've been listening as part of this whole experience. So I never did I never knew what a podcast was until I
Right.
started. Someone basically said, you should really do this, and I found out more than half the country actually listens to podcasts. And you're right. The reason why they do it is because they're doing it while they're in the car, they're doing it while they're cooking, they're doing it while they're walking the dog or taking a run. Or me now, I do it when I'm on a bike ride, which is all great, right? It's like, oh boy, yeah, interesting venue. So one of the things though too was I listened to this guy. You ever hear of Joe Rogan?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, really? See,
Yeah.
I've never really known Joe Rogan either. So I was listening to him the other day, and interesting guy, right?
Yeah.
Hold this one thing, but him and Rob, he had Rob Lowe on, one of friends of mine told
Oh,
me the
wow.
story, right? And they were talking, and one of the things that was really bothered me, and I wrote him, but I haven't heard anything back. I don't expect I will, but one of the things I said was, they were talking about the mudslides and how they lost like people, 23 people died in the mudslides in California, and then they were like, yeah, and the weather's just all screwed up, and yeah, and how 500 years from now we're going to look back and say, oh yeah, how messed up and civilization collapsed. And I was like, guys, that's not a good attitude, right? If that's your attitude, then that's where we're going to go, and that's it, right? And the other thing that they were talking about the Tesla and how the Tesla now has become the status symbol of the wealthy, and it's like wearing an Armani suit, and boy, but wouldn't it be great if Tesla had like a fancier version, because they just won't do something that's so as elegant as they want it to be. And so I wrote him in my thing, and I said, first, I'm sorry for the 23 people that and your friends that died in that, and there is something you can do about it. Climate change is here, and we could stop spewing our stuff out. And oh, by the way, with the cars, it's not just Tesla anymore. There's 50 different electric vehicles. Look at Porsche, look at BMW, even look at a friggin' high-end Nissan Leaf, and just do the upscale, and you can have all the plush you want.
I
So
thought
anyway,
you were going to say, I thought you were going to say, why can't Tesla make like a, you know, super cheap version?
that
Not the
too.
other way. Why
Right.
not make one that, you know, my, my kid can buy for, 2,000 bucks.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
which yeah,
never going to do that.
yeah, not 2,000, but you know what? He's down to 35, so that's good. But it's really
Yeah,
50 by the time you're done.
that's
But the
right.
other part is that I believe, and this is the one thing that I had the problem with Tesla about, because Oscar won and Oscar blew everybody else away. But there was a second place team, a third place team actually, yes, last year when I did the contest, and the third place team had gone into Tesla and they brought their mother, right? And they called me up and they wanted me to meet them down there. And I went to the Tesla, not dealership, but the Tesla showroom, or whatever it's called. And they wouldn't let them film.
Mm.
This was for a contest with high school kids, right? And the kids had called ahead, they had done this whole thing, and they wouldn't let them. They wouldn't let them film for whatever stupid corporate reason. And it was just like, that's the
Shut
main
it
thing.
down. Yeah, they shut down the whole possibilities. They're shooting themselves in the foot.
I know. And not only that, but I mean, so we went there. They wouldn't let them film anything, which was horrible, right? Even after these kids had these other shots, they brought their mother. Their mother was taking a test drive. They wouldn't let them go with the mother to take a film while they were test driving. And their attitude is like, nah, they're not invested in the community. And that's one thing that I think is really going to be the Achilles heel of Tesla, is that they're not connected to the community. They're not connecting with the kids. They're not basically, they're doing their thing, and it's great. I mean, electric vehicles wouldn't be anywhere near where we are if it wasn't for Tesla, no doubt about it. But you know what? I really want to see everybody doing it. So from my perspective, you got Nissan, you got Ford, you got Chevy, you got BMW, you got everybody else. Let's get them all doing it, right? And
And the way
that's,
you're saying it is connect to the community,
yeah,
because then the community will say, we want this.
yeah, right. And make it happen that way. So
But
to
by
me, I
shutting
mean,
it down, I think, I don't know if there was a legal thing. I'm sure there's some nonsense that they
yeah,
threw
I'm
out.
sure. I'm sure. But not to like high school
It's
kids,
absurd.
you
I've
know?
I've seen this again and again and again,
Yeah,
that there is that's that fixed mindset
yeah,
that they just,
exactly.
no, no, no,
No,
fear-based, no, no, it's not safe. We can't do that. No, no, no.
right.
It's
Yep.
saying no before you say yes.
Yep.
And I'm trying to teach everybody how to say yes first
Yep, exactly, and how to be
before you
open-minded and how
jump
to
to
get this out.
no, right?
Yep, yep. So anyway, I think that's one of the problems with Tesla. But again, I was blown away by Joe Rogan. It was like, guys, two things:
Yeah.
one,
Well, there's a
really cool,
guy,
fancy vehicles, and then two,
I
you can
know.
do something. Don't just say, oh yeah, the world's ending, it's so horrible, and just get depressed about it. It's like,
It's
what are you
true.
going to do about it?
Yeah,
Let's make a
there's
step.
something going around now. There's a doctor going around now. I forget his name. On a lot of recordings of him on podcasts, basically saying we're done. We're extinct,
Right.
and it's just pure. There's nothing you can do. It's too long.
It's too
It's
late. We're
over.
over. Good.
Game over, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is his purpose?
Yeah. Right. You get
How
himself
is
out on that
that
thing.
doing of any service to anybody?
No service, just self-serving, right? So one of the things that gave me the bug to start this thing off, and the universe kind of pushed me towards doing this in all different ways. But one of the ones was, did you see this or hear about this movie Planet of the Humans that Michael Moore was
No.
helped produce? So Michael Moore, right, the big movie producer, right? So he's done a bunch of different things, some of which are pretty good, I think. He's
Yeah, I
done
think they
definitely
are. Yeah.
challenged a lot of different things, which is great. So this particular movie, though, is one of his film guys who did it, and Michael produced it and released it. It was last year, and it was
Oh,
horrible. It was
oh,
so horrible. I mean, not only
oh,
was it dated and old, but then they went
oh,
and attacked everybody. Like they attacked Bill
oh, yeah.
McKibben because Bill McKibben sold out. They attacked Dennis Hayes because Dennis Hayes, blah, 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 right? Because at an Earth Day event, they said that it was renewable powered or whatever, and they weren't really renewable powered. And number one, it was 15 years ago that they had this footage.
Oh my
Number two, it
God.
was just like they made everyone out. And the end of the movie, at the end of this horrible feature film of Michael Moore and friends piece, basically the only conclusion you can have is humanity is horrible. We've destroyed the earth. We're going to take everybody else out and all creatures out. So therefore, what we really should do is get off the planet. That's it.
Yeah.
We should just let it go. And you're right, like just end it. And what I want to say to him is, okay, great. Take the lead, man. Take yourself out. Take your kids out. Take all your relatives. Just leave. Go ahead. Let it go. If that's really what you think, and it's the same sort of thing with the guys that are just anti science, right? It's like,
Well,
oh, you don't believe in
actually,
science? No problem. Get rid of your house. Get rid of your car. Get rid of your phone. Get rid of every piece of technology because that's science. So you
that's
want to
right.
go live in the woods and
That's
go live in,
right.
go for it. Go, but don't expect that there's going to be civilization around you anymore, and don't look for
Exactly.
somebody else to give you food and everything else.
Right.
It's like,
And so the education of, this is links back, and maybe, you guys can edit this back in, but this links to this idea of when kids are in this overwhelming fear state now, because the world's going to end, right? That negativity, one of the ways you change that way of, thinking and deal with that fear is to stop breaking everything apart and demonizing everything, right? We are pointing the fingers of blame at everybody instead of saying, okay, yeah, he's not perfect, neither am I, but let's see together as a team whether our two imperfects can make something a little better, right?
exactly.
As opposed to this whole philosophy of, you know, and I see this happen a lot in movements like, environmental movement, where you get this infighting
It's crazy.
because
Yeah,
how is that ecological?
right. No, and
It's
it's
not walking the
self-destructive.
walk, right?
And it's
It's
self-destructive. It's like,
right.
all we're going to do is blow ourselves up, instead of trying to find the higher ground, we got to find some reason to kill each other over some difference of opinion.
And some minor difference that isn't in, we lose sight of the big picture when you start infighting like that.
Yep.
And then we're severing ties. No, you can't be in my club. No, right? When they all started out with the same premise that we've got to do something about the planet, or we got to do something about renewable fuel. And now they're saying, no, no, wind is better. No, water is, no, are you kidding me?
Right. Yep. So is that? It seems to me that is a human condition. That is something that I don't know where it came from, but I
No,
mean, you look
it's
at.
a modern human condition.
Well, okay, so then how do you explain the difference between the Jews and the Arabs and the Christians who basically have the same, almost exactly the
They're
same?
brothers.
I know, and they're like and yet this Christian from that Christian, this Jew from Arab, I mean, it's like
That's
and
the territorial nature of civilization post when farming began, when we moved from hunter-gatherer, where there was none of that. We were,
Ishmael, eh?
yeah, yeah, we were nature,
Uh huh.
exactly. We were nature. Or read Sapiens.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I
That's
got it.
that's
Uh-huh.
I've,
Yeah, no, I've heard that too. Yeah, I'll get it. Yeah.
Ron. His name, I think his first name is Ron.
Oh, really? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, keep
Yeah.
going. So
So
yeah, I
this
mean that
idea
that
that when we
distinction. Yeah.
shifted from a hunter-gatherer culture to an agricultural culture where we had to protect our land, all of a sudden, get off my land, no trespassing. And now then it just builds out to you're not in my tribe. And then not only are you not in my tribe, you don't look like me. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I'm building a wall.
So that condition happened 10,000 years ago,
Five.
five
Not
thousand
that,
years ago.
it's not that long ago.
Not that long ago, but it's not when you say
Not in
modern
the
civilization.
scan.
It's
That's what I call modern
okay.
civilization,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So the first real, we had tools, we
Mm-hmm.
had technology.
Mm-hmm.
If people say I'm anti-technology, then throw away the hammer,
Yeah.
right? So no
Absolutely.
hammers. Let me see
Yeah.
you build a house without a hammer,
Yeah. Go for
right?
it. Right. Yeah.
Right? Or scissors.
Uh-huh.
I mean, simple things, tweezers,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Things those are devices.
Yeah.
These are devices. It's science.
Yep.
Archimedes screw, right? So the idea that when we started developing technology to help us hunt and gather and maybe do a little local farming like Native Americans did, it wasn't, we weren't, there was fighting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not some idealist. Tribes fought with each other, but it was a kind of understood thing. It wasn't over territory. The problem is territory.
Mm.
I own this piece of land. You don't. If I want to shit on it, I will. Don't tell me how to run my property.
Mm.
That's the game changer. When you are nature, when your mindset is that, no, I am nature. Nature is not something I'm in, I am, right? Then there's no walls, there's no ownership. You know, the way the Native American Manhattan tribe got hoodwinked was these guys came in and said, I'll give you these beads for the island. And he was like, what do you mean for the island? You know, the island is me. I'll take the beads, but I don't quite know what you mean by, because the concept wasn't even there to own land.
Right.
That's when the infighting of Arab against Jew, against Christian, against black, against white, again, you know, and you know, it didn't quite exist in China until much, much later. This idea of owning land.
Hmm.
It was not actually the symbol for earth in Chinese. You know, I study these ancient forms. I've given them actually to Oscar as kind of meditations. One of the symbols is called the field, and it's a symbol that looks like that,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important symbol, very very ancient symbol. But
Yep.
if you notice, it's actually four families,
Mm-hmm.
and the well that they share is right in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those are your four elements
Yep.
connected with the five.
Yep.
Very ancient form, and
Yep.
it links to a whole bunch of language. And if you look at language, the development of language, and the Chinese language, I'm fascinated with, is a much more holistic language because it's picture based, right? And the children are they're taught verbs before they're taught nouns, or they used to be before it was modernized by Mao and all these people, before it was westernized. But if you look at the Western language, post hieroglyphics, the alphabet language, it breaks everything apart.
Mm.
You're not connected to actually nature. There's no
Mm-hmm.
symbolism of nature anymore. A is just the human sound of A, ah,
Mm-hmm.
B for B, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not really, it's just connecting back to who I am and how I make sound. It has no connection to the birds or to the fields or the mountains. It disconnects.
Mm.
And the more disconnected we are, right in our language, when you say, and you're not wrong to say it's kind of written into human beings now, because it's so old, we don't even realize it wasn't always that way. It's so written in,
Mm-hmm.
it's written into the alphabetic language.
Mm. Interesting. Fascinating.
So that's why it feels so inbred to you.
Yeah, no, it's
Because
fascinating.
we use language and we can't help but put a noun and a verb
Right.
together, and the noun isn't the verb. In Chinese, every word is both a noun and a verb.
Wow.
Every word is what it does. That means you have to focus on process.
Mm.
That's going to change your relationship to things.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But you disconnect to it so you can abuse it if it's a thing. And you become inevitably you lead to throwaway culture,
Mm.
right? So I can have styrofoam cups. It's just a thing. I'm not connected to what it does.
Mm-hmm.
There's no verb there. It's just it serves me. I
Right.
am the king. It serves me.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's so old in our language, in our alphabetic language, the sound-driven language, that you and I feel like it's hardwired into us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why it feels that way to you. And you're right. At this point, it sure as hell is, because by 1 year of age, kids are going ball, ball, ball. But instead of teaching them ball, teach them throw,
Mm-hmm.
and it changes the child's life.
Interesting.
They think more holistically.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Hey, thank you so much.